Scott, Jet Set Trainer, everyone. I'm sure that's why you know me more than Doc Sheppherd. So you know me, I'm an airline pilot. I'm here to help people live an optimal life and lose fat, build muscle, and really bridge the gap between a crazy busy life and an actual healthy, sustainable modality of exercise, diet, nutrition habits. I started this company because when I started flying for the airlines, I was shocked how many unhealthy people surrounded me. So it really terrified me because health was important to me and I knew I was going to this career and people were saying, Scott, you're just gonna be a fat guy, sorry. And I was like, no, that's not gonna happen to me. And so I spent the better half of 2, 3 years really struggling with it, trying to figure it out on my own. And it wasn't until I asked for help, actually from another online trainer, that I got kind of smart with this and learned how to take care of myself. And even then, I found that the online trainer, not everyone works a job like me. And so I had to modify his recommendations to fit my travel life. And I got pretty good at it. And I quickly realized that there was a really big need for a trainer who really knew what the heck to do when it comes to this travel life. And there was enough change that I figured I needed to kind of create my own travel fitness business to really help people like myself. And so that's why I started this business over 3 years ago. We've helped hundreds of clients, and then within the last year, just over a year, I've been working with Doc Sheppherd here on making our service just that much better. And I tell everyone this who kind of joins me on a discovery call. Um, Sorry, I'm getting texts. Join on our discovery call that like the reason why Doc's here is because I've worked with people, known people, and I've personally done everything I could with nutrition, habits, and workouts, and still struggled with the results that I was trying to get. And it frustrated me when I had clients who hit a plateau and we couldn't get a weight loss goal or we couldn't build strength or something happened. And I quickly realized there was so much more to the way that our body works beyond just eating a little bit better and working out more and going for a walk. And through the help of Doc Sheppherd, I've gotten past plateaus personally on my own personal health and fitness journey, but hundreds of other clients who I've had him exposed to. And so Doc Sheppherd has really enhanced what we can do to help anyone who works with us when it comes to our biological data. Because at the end of the day, is if your body is not in a condition to lose weight or build muscle, it will let you know. And you can fight that battle for years and you will lose. And I've personally gone through this and I've worked with other clients who've gone through this. And so that's why he's here in our company now, is because we want to know of any issues that people are struggling with inside their body before we kind of really do any health and fitness journey together. Because once we know up front what's going on, not only can we fix it, but we are able to really kind of maximize your potential with any exercise or diet regimen. So, Doc, that's my kind of history to why you're here. If you want to let everyone know kind of your story and really how you got even into this business, how did you even get into this, and what's your story with all this?
Yeah, absolutely. Well, thank you, Scott. We love working with you and your team. That's the first thing I want to say. A little bit like you, I was a semi-professional athlete. I was in the New Zealand ski team. I was a amateur bodybuilder. So I've always been super fit, super active, and I thought I knew everything, right? And so, just like a lot of guys do, I would pick up a men's health and fitness. I would look at it and I'd be like, ooh, I want to look like that. Or I'm just going to try this supplement. And a little knowledge is a dangerous thing, right, guys? And so I tried to piece things together, piece by myself. And as Scott said, you're going to get some results, absolutely, for a little while, but then you plateau, then you screw things up, and then your body starts kind of like malfunctioning on you. Well, the big thing that changed for me was I had a pretty serious ski accident. I was in a wheelchair for 6 months. So I very, very quickly had to figure out how to heal. how to repair, how to get my body back. And I wanted to do it naturally. I didn't want to use drugs. I didn't want to use surgeries. And I had 24 different broken bones as a result of that accident. So life sucked for a good solid 6 months. But what it did allow me to do was realize that I was not supposed to be an attorney, that I was supposed to become a doctor and a natural doctor. So that's what I spent my last, as I was getting out of the wheelchair, spent 2 years researching. And that's what got me from New Zealand into the US. And that was 27 years ago. So over that time, my passion literally is to help as many people truly understand what health is, truly understand your bodies, and realize that age is nothing but a number, guys. You can be absolutely as healthy as a horse at 100 years old, and you can be as sick as a lame dog at 15 years old. So that's one of the things that we're going to really focus on today. I sold my practice with my wife 3 years ago, and we moved to Cabo full time. The reason for that was COVID showed me I didn't need to be in four walls. As a matter of fact, they shut me down. We were all sheltering in place, right? No one's going to come and see their doctor because they weren't allowed to. So it really showed me that I can help so many more people by getting out of four walls and doing exactly what we do. So that's when we started working with phenomenal people like Scott. And we're really just being able to increase the scope of what we're able to do. So with all of that said, let's jump in and let's actually start talking about some of this stuff.
Yeah,
Okay.
we got two
So
new attendants as well, Kevin and Michael. I see you. Welcome. Thanks for joining. And yeah, we'll get started.
yeah. Okay. So as we're looking at this slide here, guys,
Can you
the
guys see the
fatigue, the
slides, by the way? People who are who can talk, can you verify you can see the slides?
Yep, you're good.
Yes, sir.
Great, we're good.
so
Tech complete.
okay.
Sorry.
No technology issues currently.
Yeah.
All right. So just as you're looking at these guys, how many of us, have experienced these things? And how many of us have just said, well, maybe that's just because I'm aging. Okay. So the first thing is, if you have experienced any of those things and you are no longer 20, the great news is that absolutely nothing to do with a chronological age. Okay. So what these things are is they're just markers. They're a predictable result of a system that's under stress and under siege. So that's what we're really going to kind of focus on. Okay. And I know a lot of you are either in the aviation industry or have high travel in your careers, or are just executives or just people that are just super, super busy. Okay. How this trickles down to affect hormones. Pilots, let's talk about you guys just for a second, or anybody that is on the plane in a support role. Time zones change, right? You have disrupted circadian rhythms. What's your circadian rhythm? That's your sleep-wake cycle. That's the pattern that your body wants to get into to be able to heal, repair, replenish, recuperate. And oftentimes we're stuck in what we call sympathetic activation. Okay, so for those of us that are not familiar with the term sympathetic dominance, I'm going to give a little analogy. Fight or flight, right? Back to the caveman's days. If you're getting chased by that saber-toothed tiger, you better be able to haul butt and get out of there. So what happens? Your cortisol increases, your adrenaline increases, your heart rate increases, your vision, your eyes, hair stands up on the back. All of those things are designed to be able to get you out of a situation. They're designed then to be removed and come back down to a toned state when those stressors are removed. And we're going to hit more on that in a little bit. So our executives, what are you guys seeing? Cortisol overload, okay? Cortisol is hormone produced by the adrenal glands, and it's responsible for, amongst many things, cognition, okay? It's responsible for energy. It's responsible for focus, concentration, mood, and it's going to not have a switch. So when it's stuck in sympathetic dominance, cortisol is going to go all over the place. And then for frequent travelers, We've got that sleep debt. We've got the artificial light. We've got dehydration. Dehydration plays such a big role in overall body function and hormone function. Okay. Now, when the body is under stress and every signal tells the brain that the environment that you're in is unpredictable, it's not going to invest in growth. What's testosterone? Testosterone is a growth hormone, right? So if the body is stuck in fight or flight, if it's stuck in stress, if it doesn't have the energy to be able to produce hormones, it's not going to, because it doesn't care how you feel. It doesn't care how you look. It doesn't care whether you've got a big belly or not. What it does care is, can you breathe? Can you move? Can you eat? Okay. So that's the prioritization.
So are you saying when I work out harder and fight my body, it doesn't make this better?
Yep.
Okay.
That's exactly what I'm saying. Okay. So I'm going to see if I can minimize. So I'm not touching the mouse other than to move the slide.
Yeah.
What does testosterone actually do? So a lot of us think that it's kind of like a sex, just a sex hormone and a gym hormone, right? But it's actually an entire system hormone. It's responsible for energy production, cellular metabolism, insulin sensitivity, and fat distribution. Okay. So when our testosterone is dysfunctional, we're going to have blood sugar issues. We're going to have fat depositing in areas that we don't want it to deposit. It's going to actually support healthy cardiovascular system and red blood cell circulation. Okay. If our testosterone is too low, we're likely to see things like circulatory issues. If we have circulatory issues, we're likely to see things like erectile dysfunction, prostate issues, low sex drive. Okay. Testosterone, super, super important for bone density and structural integrity. Also, our mood stability and our emotional resilience. All right. Cognitive function. Yeah, absolutely. For our focus, for our memory, immune resilience. A lot of people don't understand testosterone plays a huge part in your immune system. If you're running around low T, guys, your capacity to be able to recover from your workouts and your capacity. Now, if you're somebody who's on a plane regularly, you're breathing recirculated air, right? You're in contact with literally thousands of people. Every time you have to walk through an airport, jump on a plane, your immune system is getting attacked the whole time. So really, really important that we have an understanding of that and we know what's happening with our testosterone. And then, of course, the big one, our libido, our sexual function, and our overall vascular health.
Hey
So
Doc, any like question, how many men do you think actually suffer from low T undiagnosed? Just in general, in the Western world, do you think?
I'm going to go one step further, Scott, and I'm going to say how many people suffer from low T, because this is not
Sure.
just a male problem. So out of the males, I would say at least 70%. And out of the females, probably from what I see, about 65%. You know, there are so many endocrine or hormone disruptors in everything that we're surrounded by in today's world that hormones are a serious issue, serious issue. So here, this kind of goes back to your question there, Scott, because if you're looking at these guys, these are symptoms that oftentimes you're never going to actually really understand that this is tied to the hormones, testosterone being one of them. Fatigue that doesn't fix itself, right? That, you could sleep for 8 hours, 12 hours, wake up, still feel absolutely exhausted. And you're like, well, I thought I was only supposed to get 6 to 8 hours sleep. Why? Since I slept, do I still feel fatigue? Brain fog, poor memory. Remember when you were in high school and you were studying for those exams? I guarantee you could remember a whole lot more back then than you can now. Okay. It has nothing to do with your chronological age. Waist expanding, arms shrinking. You're showing up at the gym, your biceps are shrinking as you're doing bicep curls, and your stomach is increasing. And you're like, I'm not doing that many abs. Where's this coming from? Okay. Loss of motivation and drive, irritability and flat mood. When you used to be able to get excited about something or angry about something or pissed off about something, you're just kind of like, now. Poor recovery between sessions. Let's say you're really working towards doing a multi-sport event, running a triathlon, or just showing up and working out 5 days a week. have you noticed that you're not recovering from those sessions the way that you used to be able to? Thinning hair, that receding hairline, right? And reduced grip strength. Grip strength is one of those things, guys. It's a real great indicator of how healthy your entire body is. Okay. And so if you test weak on your grip strength, you would think, well, okay, I'll just do more exercises to work on my grip strength, right? Doesn't work like that. Your grip strength is an indicator of what's happening physiologically in your entire body. Reduced libido. It seems like you woke up and you're like, not really interested in sex anymore. I was like, you remember when you were 18? Anything that had a skirt was interesting. Afternoon energy crashes. Yes. Loss of competitive edge. Absolutely. So these are things that are directly related to what's happening with our hormones. Here's something that I want to touch on because we hear this all the time. And as we go through Scott's program, we hear it from our clients, which is, I don't understand. I was told by my primary care that my labs were normal and I still gain weight. I still have no energy. I still have no libido. I still can't recover from my workouts. What's going on? So I want to point out some of the biggest differentiators between normal, quote unquote, and optimal. First, we've got to understand this. What is a lab range and how is that actually come to in the first place? You would think that normal lab ranges from low to high are a standard deviation of normal, healthy people. Yes? And you'd actually be valid in thinking that, except for that is absolutely not the case. The lab normals are taken from hospital data. How many healthy people have you seen in the hospital? Not too many. Most people don't end up in a hospital because they're healthy. They end up there because something's wrong. Either they're sick, either they have a disease, either they're trying to diagnose what the problem is, or they've been in some kind of accident. So the very nature of how we get ranges is flawed. It is taking a look at where 95% of the unhealthy population sits. Have you ever wondered if you've lived long enough, you've noticed that cholesterol numbers have changed, blood pressure numbers have changed. Why do they change? Well, because there's too many sick people now. So we have to extend the ranges. So what this does is it defines the floor, not the ceiling. And there is a gap between normal and optimal. And that's where performance, recovery, mental sharpness, and sustained energy all live. Okay. So low side of normal is not good. High side of normal is potentially not good. Where that lies in the middle, when it's all the data is taken from a functional perspective and looked at all together rather than just individual markers, because do we want to compare this sick person to you? I don't really think so. We want to have optimal functioning in our body. Total testosterone. By itself, that tells us nothing, okay? So you can go and get your testosterone tested, but it can show clinically deficient if you're not able to have free testosterone, okay? And we're going to talk about that in just a little bit. So why are we seeing low testosterone and why is it almost epidemic across all sexes and across all ages? So that's what we're going to focus on here. After the age of 30, and I don't know where that number came from, but on average, after the age of 30 in both sexes, your testosterone naturally declines about 1 to 2% each year, okay? If we don't do anything to help support it. So we're seeing so many men in their late 20s now presenting with testosterone levels that are as poor as men in their 60s. And why are we seeing some 80-year-olds with testosterone better than 20-year-olds? So age is a contributing factor, yes, but it is definitely not the complete story. And that's one of the things that we're going to kind of uncover here. All right, so these are 4 silent drivers. Basically, why guys in aviation or high travel careers or executive type roles or people that I consider an executive too, guys, somebody that's having to work 3 jobs. Okay. If you're having to balance that kind of schedule, I mean, kudos to you for that. But also, it puts you under the same sorts of stress, okay, as anybody in aviation, as anybody who's a high level executive. So we really are just talking about anybody that's in a stressful situation, okay? So the first thing that is going to drive low testosterone is that sleep debt. LH, luteinizing hormone, okay? That's a signal from the hypothalamus that sends a message to the testes to produce testosterone. This peaks when you're sleeping, okay? If your sleep is constantly disrupted, it's going to really affect that LH signaling.
What's the
Visceral fat,
hypothalamus?
huh?
Can you explain what the hypothalamus is and what it normally does?
So it's a little tiny guy that looks like a pea that's right in the center of your brain, okay? And your hypothalamus controls hormone precursors and hormone release. So your hypothalamus works with your pituitary, which works with your adrenals, and we call this the HPA axis. So all three of those really important organs have to actually all play nice together. And one of the things that they need in order to be able to do that is sufficient energy. And we're going to get to that just in a second here, because if those organs that are located in the brain do not have sufficient ATP, ATP is your energy currency in your body. Okay. It's what the mitochondria produce that allows you to go through every physiological process in the body. If that's not happening all the way down, it's going to trickle down into hormone dysfunction. All right. Visceral fat. Who knows what visceral fat is? Basically, it's the fat that surrounds your organs. Okay. It's there for a reason. It's there to protect you. Your body says, wow, I've got too much inflammation. I'm too toxic. I've got too much stress. My hormones are out of balance. I don't care what you look like. I don't care how you feel. I'm going to put all this fat, and this is brown fat, by the way, guys, not yellow fat. Okay. Yellow fat is the little pudgy stuff that you can poke on your belly, and you're like, I'll probably drink a few too many beers. It's turning to fat on my stomach. This is not that. This is the hard fat. If you've ever seen somebody that has a really distended looking stomach and you poke on that, it's going to be hard. It's going to be like poking into a wall. That is visceral fat. That is what your organs have accumulated to be able to protect it. Now, the more visceral fat we have, the less testosterone and the more estrogen that we're going to be producing. Okay. Cortisol overload. Cortisol is another hormone produced by your adrenal glands. Okay. So all of these, you see the picture, it's all tied together. Cortisol and testosterone compete for the same precursor. So chronic stress and cortisol are together. More stress, higher cortisol, don't care what happens with testosterone. So it's a survival mechanism. Okay, so we have to make sure that we know, number one, what our cortisol levels are and are they balanced? This is a big one, guys, because I see this all the time. And when we have to travel, and whether that's by air, water, car, doesn't matter, having consistent diet on the road is difficult. And that is certainly a huge strength that Scott has within his practice and within helping all of you guys, because he lives it all day, every day. So he's got this down, okay? But so many of us that are trying to do it ourselves don't. So we're training hard. We're not eating enough, guys. The same survival response happens as chronic stress. Now, testosterone is getting suppressed because, again, the body doesn't care how you respond. It just cares that you're still surviving. Okay. So those are 4 silent drivers. Most of us don't even realize that's happening below the surface. All right. So sleep debt. Like we talked about, the luteinizing hormone peaks during sleep. Okay. That sends the signal to the testes to produce testosterone. And that's released in pulses during the sleep phases. Now, if we have disrupted sleep, that's not the end of the world. Okay. There are ways that we can still make sure that this happens at sufficient levels. Most testosterone synthesis happens overnight. Okay. That's when our peak production occurs while you're sleeping. Okay, it is going to diminish that if we're constantly in um, different time zones. But again, one of the things that Scott is genius in is guiding you how to actually make the most of changes in time zones, changes in those circadian rhythms, and getting the rest when you physically can. When is testosterone produced the next most? After each workout. Okay. So is it important that we work out? Absolutely. If you want to continue to have low hormones, sit on the couch. All right. Jet lag is a hormonal event. Constant time zones suppress the circadian rhythms, and that does govern the hormone release or lack thereof. Okay. Because your body can't tell the difference between fight or flight and changing a time zone. It responds in exactly the same way, which is prioritize survival, prioritize cortisol, diminish testosterone. All right, we're talking about another hormone precursor here. So pregnenolone is produced by your adrenal glands. Okay, so adrenals are busy, right? They're producing DHEA, which is another precursor hormone for our hormones and testosterone, particularly. It's producing pregnenolone. It's producing cortisol. So as we're going to see here in just a second, when the adrenal glands get fatigued, your whole hormone cascade is not having a good day. It's not having fun. Okay. So chronic stress. Well, irregular schedules, cabin pressure changes, time zone shifts. Yeah, that's chronic stress. Cortisol demand. The body is going to prioritize that survival hormone. So pregnenolone gets to choose. Does it want to choose cortisol or does it want to choose testosterone? Well, in this case, it's going to choose cortisol. So your testosterone is going to continue to decline. Okay. All right. We're talking about this visceral fat again, okay? Because it plays such a big part. And there's two different directions of the dysfunction in testosterone that it's going to create and cause. Number one, metabolic dysfunction, okay? So what is your metabolic system, guys? Basically, your metabolic system is your ability to breathe, produce energy, transfer the food you're putting in your mouth to glucose, to glucagon. That requires a healthy liver. That requires healthy insulin levels. That requires a healthy pancreas. That then transports that sugar to be able to be used by the mitochondria. The mitochondria produce that ATP, which is the energy. Now, three organs in your body suck the most ATP. Your brain, okay? So if you're somebody that has to use your brain a lot, you're already one step down. Next one is your eyes. If you're somebody that's staring at screens all the time in your job, big suck. Third one is cardiovascular system. Okay. So you see, energy. Right now, we haven't even talked about enough energy to be able to actually digest the food. We haven't talked about enough energy to grow your hair, to grow your fingernails, to have any sex drive whatsoever, to have any impact on what's happening with your mood, your focus, your energy overall. So it's really, really important that we have a healthy functioning metabolic system. When there is excess visceral fat, it suppresses the testosterone because of the metabolic dysfunction. The second one, converting testosterone to estrogen. This is a big one, guys. The more visceral fat we have, the more aromatase is going to be there. So that aromatization is an enzyme that converts testosterone basically to estradiol, okay? The more fat we have, the faster this conversion, all right? And you've probably seen this yourself. I mean, if you enjoy a beer once or twice, or a lot, beer is extremely estrogenic. That is going to store, it's going to tank your testosterone and it's going to store in your gut and it's going to store in your breast tissue. Under fueling, more volume with less fuel is not discipline. It's actually the problem. Okay. So if you overtrain and undereat, again, sympathetic dominance, your body is not going to build muscle. Okay. And this is a classic example of the guy who's been working out like crazy. Like, why are my quadriceps continuing to get smaller and smaller? And why have I lost my butt? I'm squatting 250 pounds, 400 pounds, and I'm still getting smaller. The question you've got to ask is, What are you feeding? You know, are you able to actually get that healing and repairing? Do you have sufficient testosterone in there? So, too hard training, not enough food, survival response. No hormones, just survival. Body down regulates testosterone to conserve the resources when the energy availability is low. Okay. So if we're restricting calories or we're skipping meals while we're training, there goes your hormones, guys. All right. So in order to actually move forward, we have to fuel to match the output. All right. This is not optional. This is a hormonal requirement. All right. Same thing goes if one of our goals is to lose weight. We have to just make sure that we're utilizing enough of those calories to be able to continue to build, heal, and repair the body so that we can actually lose the weight.
And hopefully quality calories out there, right? It's a big issue with hormonal production just on the foods that you're eating. And I don't know if you're going to add to that, but that's something some of my clients who might be in this room may not eat enough of the certain things we need to actually recover. Because remember, everyone in the room, like your body's responding to stimulus all day, every day. And it doesn't know you want to lose weight. It doesn't know you want to build muscle. It doesn't know your master plan. It's just reacting to the stimulus that you give it. And so, one of my least favorite claims that I hear from people when I ask, well, what are you doing? How are you training or whatever? And they say, I'm listening to my body. That's like the blind mice leading you, or the mice leading the blind. It's your body doesn't have an agenda other than to keep you alive right now. So understanding that and getting ahead of what your body needs is going to change what your body tells you. It's not the other way around. You can't listen to your body. And obviously, part of this is listening. If you're overtraining, you should rest. I'm not saying to ignore your body, but you are in control of your body. And that's really what we teach here at Jet Set Trainer, not only with this, but with food, exercise. I'm giving you the controls back because so many of us, men, women, people who live our lives, we're constantly reacting to how our body's behaving and we get frustrated and we start to punish it. And your body is just like, I don't know what you're doing, Scott, but I'm gonna win in the end. You wanna work out me 5 days a week? Fine. This is what's gonna happen to you. I'm gonna get you a nice knee sprain for you, so you take a week off. So that's a big point that I think people miss is when they say, "Oh, I eat what I need. I listen to my body and I give it." And I'm like, well, based on what? Because if it's based on how you feel, the body's giving you feelings based on what you're doing. So just want to make that clear.
Yeah, and you made a good point too, Scott, when you touched on the fact of quality nutrition.
Yeah.
Okay. And we will circle back around to that in a little bit here as well. Okay. So the Egyptians built the first pyramids, right? These guys were pretty smart. They realized that in order to have that super tall pointy bit at the top, if they built it pointy bit down and tried to build it bigger and bigger and bigger as it went up, it would collapse, right? Well, here's the deal, guys. Your body functions exactly the same way, okay? You have to have a solid, stable base in order for you to get to the sexy point at the top, okay? So how that relates here is metabolics, okay? If you do not have blood sugar stability, if you have insulin resistance or insulin insensitivity, if you have inflammation that's running too high, if you have a liver that cannot cope with the stress of working out, and if you do not have sufficient cellular energy, it doesn't matter what's going to happen with your hormones because your body doesn't prioritize your hormones. It does prioritize everything right here because this makes the difference between whether you survive or whether you die. Okay. So what we're talking about here is basically the clinical hierarchy of the body. Oftentimes, if we suspect, or even if we've had a blood test and we're like, oh man, my testosterone's low, we're like, okay, I got to fix that. So what are my options? Well, I'll just get some TRT, right? Yeah, I mean, that's an option. We'll talk on that just in a little bit here. But if we're type 2 diabetic, if we have insulin sensitivity, okay, if we have metabolic syndrome, if we have overweight, if we are cortisol dominant, if we do not have sufficient ATP production, giving an artificial hormone is going to do absolutely nothing to fixing what actually caused the low testosterone in the first place. So this is the base where we need to start. Second is the gut. We've got to have nutrient absorption, right? Garbage in, garbage out. Yeah, kind of. If you have the wrong kind of food and it's inflaming your gut and you're not able to get the nutrients out of the food that you're putting in, it's not going to be able to turn that into lean muscle mass. It's not going to be able to turn that into sufficient energy to burn the fat. So hormone clearance is another one. Estrogen is cleared from your body, guys, in your gut. It goes through the liver. That, if it can't take it all out, goes through the gut. If it can't clear, it recirculates. When it recirculates, that's how we start to become estrogen dominant. Okay. So another little known fact, 60% of your immune system comes from your gut. If you have dysfunction within your gut, you are going to have dysfunction not only in your metabolic system, but also with your hormone system. And then your hormones are at the top, right? These are the sexy guys, the testosterone, the DHEA, the cortisol, the LH, the FSH, the sex binding globulin hormone, the estrogen, the progesterone. All of us have all of those running around in our bodies. Either they're going to be at healthy, sustainable levels, or they're not. So here are the kind of things that are going to present as a hormone problem, where really it's a metabolic problem to start with, okay? So we're going to see blood sugar and insulin sensitivity, all right? We're going to see cellular energy production depleted. This is where you're like wired and tired kind of thing. You're like, man, I'm friggin' exhausted, but I can't get to sleep. And when I do get to sleep, I don't rest, recover, recuperate. Inflammatory load is too high. So that chronic systemic inflammation suppresses the entire hormonal cascade, everything downstream. And then cortisol demand, okay? When that is too high, pregnenolone is going to be stolen. Now, testosterone doesn't have a chance. So that is why Scott recommends within his program that we start, even if you come to him saying, I believe my T is low. I believe I've got fat issues. We're going to say, absolutely, you probably do. Let's find out the why behind that, because all of those things are nothing but symptoms. So that's why Scott recommends the metabolic testing, because we don't guess, we test. When we've got that hard data, we're able to now change it. So the GI, the gut's not just digestion, guys. It feeds every system above it and below it. Testosterone's built from cholesterol, right? So there's two precursors. We've got HDL cholesterol here. We've got DHEA here. They first have to be activated by pregnenolone. So now we're going back upstream one more time. But then they come together to be able to synthesize cholesterol. If the GI system's inflamed or its absorption capacity is compromised, the body can't build or eliminate those hormones. Estrogen clearance runs through the gut. We just talked about that. If that continues to recirculate in the body, your testosterone will continue to decline. Nutrients, this is key. Almost vitamin D deficiency. So vitamin D is actually a prohormone, okay? It's a fat-soluble vitamin. It's a precursor for all of the hormones. It's a precursor for healthy immune system. It's a precursor for healthy hair, skin, and nails, healthy sexual function, healthy circulation. Super, super important. Almost, I would say 75% of the people that we test are chronically deficient in vitamin D. Okay. You have to know these numbers, guys. We have to know what's happening with our magnesium. Okay. We have to know what's happening with our zinc, because these are all required for hormone synthesis. And it depends on having a healthy gut, which is why we recommend checking that out as well. So what happens if you skip a sequence? Let's just say we go straight to hormones, for example, and we get some pathway, whatever that we choose, to start to increase that. If all of these things downstream from that are still dysfunctional, we're never going to have healing. We're never going to have repair. We're never going to have stability within the endocrine system and the hormones, and specifically testosterone, until that is fixed. Okay. Are you going to see short term? Yeah, absolutely. Are you then going to see plateauing or stalling out, as we call it? Yeah, because the upstream dysfunction is still driving everything and it has never been addressed. Okay. So I'm sure some of you can relate to these things. This is people that have tried diets themselves. This is people that have tried trainers themselves. This is people that have tried HRT themselves. Um, if the root behind it all was never addressed, you're constantly on, I like to say, on that, like that little mouse on the spinning wheel. You're just running and running and running, but you're actually never getting anywhere. So, what shows up on testing? Let's take a look at this. Okay. Hormones don't operate in isolation, guys. Number one, we are not just testosterone. We are not just estrogen. We are not just DHEA. We are not vitamin D. All of those must come together. Now, in a standard physical, we just take a look at total testosterone. That's it. One number has no context, no pattern. So, just for your understanding, total testosterone tells you what's floating around in your body, not what your body is able to utilize. Okay. So, in order to get a full picture, we need free testosterone. Okay. We don't care what's floating around in the body. What can your body actually use? How's that going to show up for you? We need to understand the relationship between SBG, sex hormone binding globulin. Okay. If that is tied up, we don't have very much free testosterone at all. We need to understand the relationship between estradiol, DHEA, cortisol, our stress hormone. Okay. We need to understand what's happening at 4 different times during the day because I can promise you your production is different between first thing in the morning and last thing at night. We need to know that. We need to know what your fasting insulin is and what your blood sugar levels are. We need to know what those inflammatory markers are, what your thyroid panel is, what your liver function is, your vitamin D, your zinc, your magnesium. That gives us the full picture. So we can then say, this is what needs to happen in order for you to look good, to function highly. So this is free T versus total T, right?
Well,
So
before you go into that, it just does a
yeah,
chance for me to kind of talk about, go back to that last slide. So with testosterone and cortisol and really any hormonal panel, that's why we do saliva testing at Jet Set Trainer is because we send you a take-home saliva test kit and you spit in a tube, freeze it 4 times throughout the day. And it kind of gets rid of this issue where when you go see your primary care doctor, if you are running a hormone panel, it's usually blood, and it's just a snapshot of whenever you took the test. So you may have a hormonal issue, except that exact moment when they took that test. And a common place where we see that is early in the morning. Um, you may take a test and it may be fine in the morning, but your hormonal balance at the end of the day may just be completely trashed, and you may be suffering from symptoms from low T and or cortisol or any other hormone. You'll never know it because you never did a test 9 o'clock at night. It's usually first thing in the morning at your doctor's office. So this is really important to understand, and what differentiates us from what you're doing with your primary care provider is we are getting a full contextual snapshot of your health because we're not limited by health insurance saying you can't need or you don't need to do that. A lot of panels you do with your primary care doctor are not driven from, well, we need the complete, lab to show what's going on. Your panels, whether they be blood, hormonal, metabolic, whatever, they're driven on the most cost centric for the insurance provider. And so your doctor isn't even given or afforded as much data as possible because he's limited by what the insurance company will actually cover, which is kind of a shame. And so this full picture issue is not just with low T, it's with most blood panels, is that they're not doing extensive panels because frankly, they don't want to pay for it. They want to keep insurance premiums low. So just want to throw that in there for some context, everyone.
absolutely. Very, very true. So, okay, this is just we've talked about this. So, in the essence of time, I'm going to skip over this slide
Sure.
because basically, if your testosterone is bound up by the sex hormone binding globulin, it's not going to show up necessarily as symptoms, and your labs are going to get told to you you're normal because your T level looks at 300. Now, what's actually available to your body, if you've got 97% bound up, is less than 30. That is testosterone deficient. But that's how you can be told you have a normal lab, okay? Incomplete data. And that's the big thing that Scott was just talking about. More is better when it comes to leading into the hormone story. Okay, let's talk about testosterone replacement therapy for a minute. Can be absolutely fantastic and can be appropriate in certain times. Okay, so I am definitely not hating on testosterone replacement therapies. It needs to be managed and it needs to be managed properly. Those are the two caveats. Okay, so what is exogenous testosterone? Well, essentially that means giving the body testosterone from outside its capacity to produce it itself. Okay, that's what the word exogenous means. Now, most of the testosterone that is used, whether it be a pellet, whether it be a patch, whether it be an injection, is synthetic. Okay, man is really smart. We can produce pretty much anything in a lab. It doesn't mean we can get the chemistry 100% correct. Okay, I'm going to use an analogy. When you go and cut a new key at Home Depot, sometimes it's perfect, right? Other times you get it home and you're like, well, it looks the same. You try and put it in the lock and you're like, oh, dang it. Am I going to have to make another trip? And so you just wiggle it around and wiggle it around until you get it to sometimes work, sometimes not work. That's a very similar analogy with artificial synthetic testosterone. We can get it really close. Now, what is a downside of that? Well, there's really two downsides of that. Number one, it will shrink your testes, and it will shrink particularly your Leydig cells within your testes. Your Leydig cells are the cells that are responsible for producing testosterone in the first place. So let's imagine this. We've got low T. Now we're going to give ourselves some T. Cool. Now we're shrinking our nuts, essentially, shrinking our body's capacity to be able to naturally produce testosterone. What happens now the minute we go off exogenous testosterone? Your body says, I'm not doing it. I mean, you just ruined my capacity to be able to do it, and I'm lazy, so you're going to have to give me some more. Now, you've just jumped on the treadmill, okay? And the minute you stop, the testosterone will tank, all right? That's one problem. Another problem is the aromatization that we already talked about, okay? Oftentimes, when you give higher levels of synthetic testosterone, what it's going to do is also aromatize into estrogen. So now on a lab result, if we're even doing lab results, we can see testosterone absolutely increasing, which is what you went for in the first place, right? But are we testing the estrogens? Are we also seeing those increasing? Okay. When you have excess estrogens running around in your body, what starts when a girl goes into puberty, right? She starts forming breast tissue. What is that? That's a huge release of estrogen into the body. Well, guess what, guys? Same thing happens. Okay. So oftentimes we see we call it gynecomastia, basically man boobs, because of the aromatization, because we have too much testosterone running around in the body. We also have that estrogen belly. Okay. So is TRT appropriate in some cases? Yes, absolutely. And can it be super effective? Yes, absolutely. Does it need to be managed very, very carefully? Yes, absolutely. Okay. So if anyone is utilizing TRT currently, make sure a couple of things. Make sure that you are actually giving blood at least every couple of months, because otherwise we start to see coagulation within the red blood cells. Make sure that you use some aromatization type blocker, and just make sure you're testing your estrogens. Okay. Is it my first line of defense for low testosterone? Absolutely not. Okay. So what do we recommend? Well, we recommend either bioidenticals or adaptogens. What an adaptogen and what a bioidentical will do is send that message to those cells. It's going to send it to your Leydig cells. It's going to stimulate the hypothalamus, the pituitary, to release the LH, the FSH. It's going to decrease the level of sex-binding hormone globulin, okay? And now your testes start doing exactly what they were doing before you messed them up, which was increase the natural production of your testosterone.
And guys, by the way, I know I just got a text from Sam. If you have to leave early, we have an exclusive offer at the end of this to help you with your tea, and we'll talk about it at the end. But if for some reason you have to leave, I'll make sure you get that opportunity.
Yes. And this is Scott's protocol right here, guys. This is the ability utilizing specific training, specific nutrition, lifestyle framework, and this is going to reverse low T naturally. Okay. Now, this is what Scott spent all of these years figuring out so that you don't have to. Okay. You don't have to waste your time anymore. Do you want to pick up with this slide, Scott?
Yeah, I spent years struggling with this, and I promise you, had I got this 10 years ago, I would be in a totally different place right now. So the best thing I ever did was ask for help multiple times from multiple people on this. And whether it's low T or just fitness in general, the information is out there. And as you know, there's a million fitness pages, there's a million YouTube channels. You can do quote your own research for 20 years and still be like, well, which direction do I go? So my advice is whether it's my protocol or anyone else's protocol, is that you should engage with it and start taking advice from people who've been in the position that you want to be in. Take advice from people who have similar symptoms or similar struggle and are now in a place that they no longer have that issue. And that was me entirely. I had low T a year ago. It was like 45. It was two digits.
Yeah.
It was it was shockingly low for how much that I lift, for how much that I eat correctly, how much that I focus on sleep. It was like a huge eye-opening number that someone like me who takes health and fitness seriously enough to struggle that bad with testosterone, it was shocking. And so since then, we have I have personally changed my protocols and whatnot to fix myself, but I've applied it to my clients as well, all hormonal health, and it is night and day difference. We were talking earlier with the gut connection, and that was the biggest symptom for me with my dysfunction is that I had some really unpleasant gut symptoms. That was kind of the smoking gun for us to look upstream to see what was causing those gut symptoms. Other providers in the past told me, oh, have a probiotic. Oh, avoid this food. Well, maybe, but really the dysfunction was beginning for me in the metabolic sector. And once we figured out my blood sugar sensitivity was actually not great for where I was coming from, once we figured out that my liver was likely fatty, despite working out, exercising, tracking macros, doing all the right things, and I still had a fatty liver, once I went on that protocol, my numbers completely changed. And my bilirubin in specific with my liver was almost to the point of jaundice on the lab. And I was like, Jesus. And 60 days later on their protocol, I took another test and it was back down into the point seven range where it was at point 1.6 before. So it was over half an improvement in just 60 days. And so what I'm saying is you may have the worst low T, you may have the fattiest liver, you may have the most sugar dysfunction right now once we test you, but it can all be fixed in a matter of months. It is not a death sentence. It is not a prescription latent thing where you're going to have to take TRT or an injectable the rest of your life. It is the body is an amazing organism that will fix itself once you find out what the problem is. And that's what we're here to do. In
100%.
months, not years, months, you will feel better and look better just by engaging with this with us.
And this is exactly what Scott was just talking about, just in some fancy words. Okay. Sleep quality, when sleep quality improves, our LH signaling restores overnight, testosterone synthesis resumes. Okay. When our blood sugar stabilizes, the insulin demand drops, the inflammatory burden decreases, less inflammation, better healing, better recovery, higher T. Cortisol load reduces. Pregnenolone can say, sweet, I'm now going to go and start producing some testosterone that I wanted to do in the first place. Fueling matches output. Body exits survival mode. We're not in crisis anymore. And now the resources can go to performance. Now we can actually start optimizing. So if you're a guy sitting here listening to this and you're like, man, I feel like I'm doing all these things right, but I've just been stuck and really been able to go performance enhancement. We don't have to fix broken stuff. If stuff's not broken, let's get better. And that's the beauty of having all of these data points and these markers. We don't need to guess anymore. So we can literally, instead of taking a shotgun approach, we can take a sniper approach. We can say, okay, this has been the one little thing that's held us back. When inflammatory load clears, aromatase activity is going to drop. Okay. Now we're not getting so much testosterone, and we're seeing those levels of testosterone significantly improve. Okay. So quit asking the question, how do I raise my testosterone? A better question is, why has my body quit producing it in the first place?
Think of it as a canary in the coal mine. That's what this is. If you haven't got that, guys. David, Michael, Jannard, when you're ready to work with us, I can at least show you where we get started here. And we got Doc on the call. Doc, do you got to run? Can we go over one BHE real quick?
Yep, I got 10 minutes. We
You got
absolutely can.
10 minutes. All right, cool. So what we're gonna do, what is a BHE basically, guys? A BHE is pretty much our first tool where we try to uncover not just low T, but really kind of get a good snapshot of what's going on in the body based on the symptoms when you answer in our BHE. This BHE, guys, by the way, you were sent a copy of this to take this survey before this call. If you want to go through and do the survey, it's in your email. If you can't find it, let me know. I'll send it to you again. But Doc, we got some issues with Trey, and we're working on it right now. Um,
100%.
let's talk through this. What do you see?
So, guys, first of all, I want to pre-frame biometric health evaluation as a self-assessment tool. Okay. So it's fantastic. We like to call this the doctor's visit that you never had, because you get to sit there in the comfort of your own home, no stress, no pressure, no white coat syndrome, and actually just deep dive into every single of the major physiological groups in your body and get an understanding as to how it's showing up for you on a daily basis. We call this our triage tool. And triage basically means the place to start. Okay. So this helps us guide what particular testing may or may not be appropriate for each of your individual cases. And that's the beautiful thing about this. It is, we don't do anything cookie cutter at Jet Set Trainer. Everything is tailored to your specific needs, your goals, and empirical data is matched exactly to that. This took me 19 years to actually formulate, and it's a conglomerate of my colleagues, medical doctors, pharmacists, psychologists. So a lot of people have had input into making sure that the questions lead us into being able to find out what is happening physiologically in the body. And I like to say, for ease of looking at these things, we made it kind of like a traffic light, right? If it's green and it's single digits, well, that's like a green light. You can go through it, okay? If it's green and it's high double digits, we want to slow down a little bit. If it's something that's in the yellow, this is like our orange traffic light. We should have way more caution, right? So we should actually slow down and see. Let's deep dive a little bit more into this area. And then if it's red, hopefully we all stop at red lights. I got to tell you, here in Mexico, that does not happen very often. So you've really got to pay attention when you see that red light. That's a hard stop, okay? That means that we know for sure that there is dysfunction in that area. So then the beauty of this is, because it's been broken down into each of the major physiological groups, remember, one of the things that we learned from this class today was we don't take data in isolation. We take a look and see how it interacts together, because you are not just the sum of one symptom. You're not just the sum of one piece of your body, one hormone, one physiological process. What we need to do is literally take a step back, look with a wider lens, and take a shotgun approach in the triage form to be able to say, okay, these are the areas that we need to work on. Now we know that, let's take a sniper approach into following the hierarchy. So first of all, we've got to clear our metabolic system. Second of all, we need to then come back to the GI system. If the symptoms have changed significantly, as a result of going through the metabolic protocol, which I got to tell you guys, in 80% of the case, particularly with guys, we see that happen, right, Scott? We haven't done too many specific GI tests because we haven't needed
Sure.
to. We've got amazing results, amazing healing. But I tell you what does always end up hanging in there, guys, is the hormones, okay? Because you can't have metabolic dysfunction. You can't have gut dysfunction without there being endocrine dysfunction, okay? Um, so just go right up for the top just for a second here, Scott, because I want to just point out how this all ties in together. Section C, guys, when we look at small intestine and pancreas, that's a pretty big red light, right? So when I see that, I'm like, okay, now let's take a look down at our blood sugar. So let's just skip all the other things for a second and look at our glucose. Hello, dysglycemia L for low, dysglycemia E for elevated. So right now, this particular client knew that he had dysfunction with his blood sugar, okay, because it showed up hot in GI. Because what does the pancreas do? The pancreas produces insulin, guys. So that allows the transport mechanism to take the glucose from the food into the cell to be able to produce ATP. So the point I'm trying to make here is you can totally see how one system leads directly into another. And if somebody is actually tuned into their body and willing to be honest as they answer these, we're going to get a solid roadmap every single time. And that saves you so much time. You know, Gerard, super proud of you for doing all of these steps already, brother. But I got to tell you, if you jump in with Scott, you just went on the fast track. Okay. You're going to be able to see results in an eighth of the time because we're not guessing anymore, man. We're actually using empirical data and we're going to hold you to it, you know? So that's
Yes,
the
sir.
beauty of something like the biometric health evaluation.
And what's really good to see, Trey, is I know this doesn't look good, right? This is a lot of red, but I promise you, when you take this same evaluation before your hormone test, you're likely going to see some more green, certainly some more yellow. This starts to, this story changes very quickly when you're under the protocol and our guidance and everything that we're doing right now. Every single day, I know not every day is perfect with you. I know you're tough on yourself. But every little thing that you're doing right now is changing this story. And your after BHE at the end of this program in a couple months is going to be totally different. And so this is just the beginning, and this has saved me time with my health. Like I had a very similar thing, Trey, where my small intestine was on fire with the pancreas, and
Mhm.
same thing, same connection. And the best part is when it comes back to full testosterone, remember, once we solve this sugar issue and we solve some gut issues, now all of a sudden our endocrine system is just absorbing more nutrients. It's no longer under the gun or depressed. Now the body has the capacity to actually even change these numbers. And what I'm suggesting is, Trey, you could solve this glucose problem and have a grand slam. Your liver leans out, your small intestine and pancreas begin to not be so inflamed, and your endocrine system responds. So just as fast as this snowballs into a red and yellow survey, it can snowball back the other direction just as quickly with one intervention. And that's what's the most powerful part about all of this.
Mhm.
I'm sure you've seen it 100 times, right, Doc?
Literally thousands of times over 25 plus years. Yep. And it's so gratifying too. I'm so excited, Trey, to follow your progress, particularly because this is going to be game changer for you. And you know, I know that in our conversation, one of our topics was I just want to be well. I want to be healthy. I want to have the next 50 years of my life being great years, you know. And that's a reality, guys. When we actually understand these markers and we start to heal the body and repair the body, there's no more dysfunction. The body was not made to be sick. It doesn't have an expiry date. Just because we're 60 doesn't mean, oh crap, now I can't walk up the stairs. Well, guess what? If you don't do the things now, yeah, you're probably not going to be able to walk up the stairs. You know, if you're in airports a lot, look around. Look how many unhealthy unhappy people there are. But this is where it all stops. This is where it all starts. When you jump on board with somebody like Scott, who has taken all the hard work away, who actually really loves what he does, and who supports you, provides you with the tools, provides you with the resources. It's game changer. And what you've just done is not only felt better all day, every day, but you have literally just extended the quality and quantity of your life. And that's what it's all about.
And Jannard, I know you asked me about peptides, and that's why I wanted you to do this too before that, because people who this peptides craze is very uninformed when you have all the tools in front of you right here. Before we even need to talk about peptides, you could not see you could see minimal results from peptides if we aren't even addressing the fundamentals here. And so whatever you do in the future, Jannard, save your money and go this route first before you spend money on other products, because I promise
Mm-hmm.
you, you may not even need them. That six pack that used to be in the mirror, it's on that sheet right there on why it's gone. And you can take that, Jannard, that be happy to go over that with you when you're ready.
Thank you so much.
Yeah, you're welcome. Well, I think it's time. It's 8:30 my time. I don't know where you guys. I know David, you're out way out on the East Coast, so I know it's late for you. Bonsoir, au revoir. Trey, we'll be seeing you soon. And I just wanted to thank you guys for coming. This is going to be a podcast episode, and you get to listen to it again if you want to go over this and reconsider all the things. We talked a lot of data and a lot of stats. And if you want to watch it again, great. Share it with your friends and family or coworkers that may be struggling with low T, just to learn something today. That was our goal this evening. So
Good
thank you.
night. Thank you guys so much.
Good night, guys.